All right, one quick announcement. If you are a member, a Unity member, and you have not yet filled out your little blue card, see Karen before the end of the service. So you can fill it out before we do our annual meeting. All right. Welcome to the Rainbow Series. I was thinking about how we were just at this point in the Rainbow Series when we went through the big shutdown of 2020. It feels really, really good to be here and now. Like, the summer is just coming. The summer is coming, man. We are blowing through spring so quick, I can't even believe it. Just want to scream. It's happening so fast, and it's all so amazing. But we're going through, the theme this year is grace and grit. Because grace is the givingness of spirit. Grace is what we need. Whatever difficulty we are experiencing right here and now, there's something that we can call forth through us that'll help us keep moving forward. To help us keep knowing what's the next right thing for me to do. Grit is actually also a grace. It's the grace of fortitude. It gives us the endurance. It helps us to bear what's coming up next. It helps us to stand in that with persistence and be committed to doing the next best thing for ourselves. So that's why I chose grace and grit this year. Because I thought that's what we really need this year. That's what we're really ready to step into. So with grace and grit, this is where we heal any of our unconscious beliefs that are no longer serving us. Those unconscious beliefs that are holding us back, keeping us from stepping into the fullness of our soul's potential while we are here on this planet right now. So what we've been doing is we've been going through the chakra system, which is the mystical system of the East. We've hit the point now where I don't really have time to recap everything we've gone through, but I'll just say quickly, colors. We've been doing the colors of the chakras. Red is for the first chakra, our tribal, our foundation. Orange is for the second chakra, how we participate in relationships and in the world. Yellow is the third chakra, the solar plexus, and it's about we step into our own integrity and start sharing our gifts with the world. The heart. Of all things, the heart is green. The heart is green. And I always thought it would be pink, but it's green. Green for the fortitude and the strength that the heart gives us to do the hard things. Then we go into the throat chakra, light blue. Today, we're going into the third eye, which is the dark blue or the indigo. Now, the shadow is anywhere that we need healing. The shadow is within our system. The shadow is anywhere where we struggled and experienced a pain so deep and so hard for us, we didn't know how to cope with it. So that's where we go into the shadow. But also there is the grace that shines the light on anything we've ever gone through. The grace, whatever kind of grace you need, it shines the light anywhere that we need healing. So today we're going into the sixth chakra, which is the third eye. Now, when you talk to spiritual folks, it's the third eye they always want to talk about, right? Yeah, forget all the other chakras. We just want to talk about psychic development, right? That's what was going on anyway when I joined the New Age community. But the third eye, it's not a woo-woo chakra. It's not a woo-woo chakra. It is actually very practical. It's a very practical chakra. Hi there. Because it's here where we understand our intuition, right? Our intuition, our imagination, our intellect, our reasoning. It's our mind working daily in our lives. And it's analyzing things for us. What's working? What's not working? What needs to be released? What should I do more of? Here in the third eye, we get direct revelation about inspiration and intuition, right? Direct revelation. So it's the third eye that allows us to find that light in the darkness. Now, if we go into the shadow, of the third eye, we go into envy, into spiritual envy, or just regular envy. Envy makes us completely irrational. We look around. Envy is when we see something someone else has and we want it for ourselves. But it's not just stuff, right? It's not just, their car or their money that they make or their beautiful home. It's not just that stuff. It can also be their talents and their gifts. So we feel like what we have is not good enough, and we have to have what they have. We have to be who they are, have their power, have their abilities. So when we get envious of somebody else, the next thing that follows is we try copying them. It's like, well, I'm going to just do what they do to try to create this great experience so I can have the life that they have. But if we're in envy, we're not authentic. There's nothing about their life that is better than your life. There's nothing about somebody else's life that's better than our life. But if we're in envy, we don't see it. And so we're going to try to copy them. So, of course, we're going to fail miserably. We're going to fail miserably. When we are in envy, we go here and we misuse our intelligence. We misuse our reasoning capabilities. We go into the dark actions and the dark strategies of lying, of cheating, of manipulating. Okay, that's where we end up. We try taking all the spiritual shortcuts just to get what we want. Envy causes us to diminish all the good in our lives. Now, in the shadow, we'll see, what we'll believe is that what we have is not good enough, and we have to have what they have, we have to be who they are, and it becomes so toxic. All we ever see, we don't see current opportunities, which current opportunities are always presenting themselves. All we'll see when we're in the shadow of envy is the missed opportunities, those opportunities that are way behind us, way behind us. Now, there's also jealousy, and jealousy is kind of like envy. But I'm going to just put it in the most simple terms ever, okay? You've got a 15-year-old girl, and she likes this other boy, but he has a girlfriend. She's jealous because she wants him for her boyfriend. Now, say that she gets him for her boyfriend, right? So now the same girl has this boy, he's her boyfriend, but then, that was envy, right? I said that was envy. She envied the girl for her boyfriend. She wanted him for herself. Now she gets him, and this other girl's flirting with him. Now she gets jealous. Envy is we want something we don't have. Jealousy is we're afraid something we have is going to be taken away from us. I think I really butchered that example. I don't know. But anyway, you get it, right? But see, both of these, whether it's jealousy or envy, they both will keep us from expressing our good. They'll keep us, we either think we're going to lose our good or we think we're never going to get our good because somebody else has got it. It'll keep us from seeing what we are truly capable of. Envy, jealousy, it keeps us from expressing our whole soul's potential in this life, which we're designed to actually do that. We came into this world to share our divine potential out into our life and into the world. In envy and jealousy, though, everything goes on lockdown. It keeps us from calling forth more good. So I was thinking about that, how jealousy keeps us from calling forth the good. Envy keeps us from calling forth the good. But I was thinking about, I remember being a kid and hearing about how in the story of Moses, Jehovah actually tells Moses, you will not worship any other idols because I am a jealous God. And I was thinking, okay, so if jealousy keeps us from expressing our good, right, how do you explain this? You're going to say God doesn't express his good, right? Of course, we know that in the stories, Jehovah was an outside God. It was outside. And I know, for myself, I was raised believing that God was like that old man out there in heaven in a castle. Probably had a beard, right? Did you believe in an old man out there? Okay. Yeah. And so I wanted to go into this story because we know that a jealous God could not call forth more good. And in unity, we don't believe God could be jealous because we don't believe God is a deity out there. In unity, we see God as the every single expression. It's the creative expression, it's the pure potential, it's all that we see in an expression already. It's ideas, it's inspirations, and it's every single grace we could ever need. It's also desiring to express itself through us, for us, as us. And so I was thinking, we're in the midst of these springtime holidays. Today's actually Palm Sunday. And last night we started Passover, which goes through next Sunday, which is Easter. Next Friday, it's Good Friday. But spring itself even represents regeneration and rebirth. It's rebirth. This is a time of rebirth, or metaphysically, you could look at it as a spiritual evolution. Now, what I think is so interesting is if you go back to Moses, he was the trigger for a spiritual evolution that brought in the age of Aries. Then Jesus, 2,000 or maybe 4,000 years later, came in. A spiritual evolution again triggered the age of Pisces. We just now moved into the age of Aquarius. We're officially, no more like the dawning, like we're officially in the age of Aquarius. And yeah, it's an astronomical thing, but we also know that stuff happened. There's evolution happening, and it's been happening. So I'm going to go in today a little more into Moses' story, because we're kind of in the middle of that ourselves. And Moses' story is, it is about stepping into our divine truth, just as Palm Sunday represents stepping into our divine truth. So last week I mentioned how Moses, he got, divine directive from Jehovah. He went to Egypt. He meets up with his brother Aaron, and he starts performing these things that are miraculous. He brings the plagues upon Egypt. So the Israelites all look at Moses, and they're like, yeah, he's the man. He's the man who's going to get us out of slavery. He's the man who's going to take us to the promised land. Pharaoh was not so open to this, and mostly Pharaoh was just really mad. Maybe he was scared too, he didn't want to admit it. The final plague was the event that then is now celebrated as Passover, but it was the angel of death going over the land and taking all the firstborn Egyptian boys. So it was this event then that finally triggered the Pharaoh then to say, just take them and go. Just go. So now, and here's another miracle. Moses is leading the children of Israel out of Egypt. They're being guided forward by the angel of God appearing as a pillar of smoke and clouds and lightning. And at night, it turns into a pillar of fire, so they can travel by both night and day. Miraculous, right? But see, then Jehovah says to Moses, I'm going to go harden Pharaoh's heart. Because really, my children need to know there's no going back. There's no going back to Egypt. Stop thinking of Egypt. There's no going back. So he hardens Pharaoh's heart. Pharaoh gets mad, gets his soldiers, and they're going to ride out after the children of Israel. Now, wherever they are, Moses and all the Israelites can look back and see, here come Pharaoh with all the soldiers. This is what they say to Moses. Is it because there were no graves in Egypt that you took us away to die in the wilderness? Why have you done this to us? Didn't we say just leave us alone to serve the Egyptians? It would have been better to serve the Egyptians than to die out here in this wilderness. So then, of course, there was the biggest miracle. People always talk about this miracle, the parting of the Red Sea. They were like, yeah, you knew that was coming, right? So Moses got the Israelites through, then the Pharaoh went through with the soldiers, the seas folded over on them, and no more Pharaoh, no more soldiers. Big miracle, big miracle. So now the Israelites all say, yes, Jehovah is our God, and we will praise him. This is what they say. He has triumphed gloriously, right? Not just like, but gloriously. This is a huge thing. This was a miracle. They were walking through the sea. They were walking through there. So everything seems good, but then they're going, they're traveling, there's no water. They get to this place, the water's bitter. So they're upset about this. It's like, we have nothing to drink. Moses prays, and the water's turned into the sweetest water ever that you could drink. But then they're hungry. Now they're hungry. There's nothing to eat. They say to Moses, it would have been better to die by the hand of the Lord in Egypt, where we sat by our pots of meat, and we ate our bread to our full. Like we had all that we wanted to eat. Instead, you have brought us forth into this wilderness to destroy the whole assembly of Israel with hunger. That's what they say. Forget that they just walked through the parted Red Sea and water was turned sweet. So Moses prays, and Jehovah tells him, I will rain bread down upon you every morning, and every night I will send you meat. And this happened. This is what happened. But, if like if you really want a good drama, I recommend reading the book of Exodus. It was more drama, more struggle, more drama, more struggle. The Israelites were tired. Okay, they were tired. This had been a dream to be free of Egypt, but it wasn't one of those kind of dreams they thought would really ever happen. And so in a way, they were kind of content. Again, they did have plenty of meat and bread, right, when they were in Egypt. So they just really didn't know what to expect when all this happened. They probably just thought, well, it'd be real easy to attain my dream. Like sometimes we might think that. Oh, this is my big dream, and that'd be real easy. But it's not. It's never just that easy, right? We have to keep shifting our consciousness and growing our consciousness to create this next thing in our life. And so Moses, you know what? He knew what to expect, kind of. Because he'd already struggled so much with even just leaving, right? Because Moses had a comfortable life. He did try to talk Jehovah out of making him do this. He tried to. But when Jehovah's like, no, I'll be with you the whole time, Moses he went forward and he never did look back. Okay? Now, this isn't the story of miracles, although I cannot think of another story that had this many miracles happen in it. This still is not a story of miracles. It's a story of envy. Because it's a story of looking back constantly to wanting something better, wanting something easier. It's a story of, it's envy of wanting, well, this is the life I expected, not this. I don't want this. This is what I want, is this thing. They didn't realize this was a step in spiritual evolution for them. Now, spiritual evolution only ever comes. This freedom that we get with spiritual evolution, we only get that freedom because we leave the house of bondage. Egypt, Pharaoh, that was the house of bondage. That's where we have familiarity. It's where we have food in our belly, and we're not too worried about the next thing that's going to happen. We know how every day goes. It's the same day after day. Okay, that's to be in bondage. Freedom comes at a very high price because we're giving up our comfort. We give up comfort with our freedom because we have to give up a way of thinking. We can't be on autopilot anymore. Autopilot is not freedom. We do not always act through our free will. We think we do. It's like, well, I'm a person. I have free will. Well, you have free will, but you don't always act through it. Like, I know how that might look is like, I have free will, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll complain about some silly thing. I start complaining. Poor me. I fell into an old rut. That's not free will. That's not who I want to be. I was doing something I don't want to do instead of doing the thing I want to do. So sometimes we go on autopilot, right? Now Moses was there to lift everyone. He was there to lift them. Okay, the people were going to rise, and he was going to take them all with him, whether they wanted it or not, right? Whether they wanted it or not. Now, God knew they were ready. God knew they could do it. God knew they'd handle it. He trusted in Moses. But they would have said they weren't ready for it, probably, right? So Moses was there. Moses became what I am calling a rising tide. That's like my new phrase. I love the rising tide. I don't know if you read the newsletter yesterday, but the rising tide lifts all the boats. The rising tide does not judge the boats. It doesn't say, well, you're not fancy enough, or you're too little, or you're wood. I only want to raise aluminum. The rising tide just lifts anything that's on the water. Anything. And that's what Moses became. Moses became a rising tide to the Israelites. He was all about spiritual evolution. He was given a divine direction, take the Israelites out of Egypt. It was time to move forward, time to put the focus on God. Because they're moving into a new consciousness. So Moses was doing this all on his own. Now he had support. Of course, God was with him every day, guiding him. That was the energy driving Moses forward. But the Israelites weren't helping him. The Israelites were just along for the ride, basically, that they didn't really want to be on after they got going on it. Aaron, his brother, was there, but he was just a support system. Moses carried the burden for lifting everybody. That was Moses' burden. So here we get to about the idea of a jealous God and what that means for us. Jehovah said to him, when Moses went to the top of Mount Sinai to get the Ten Commandments, Jehovah says, thou shalt not worship idols, for I am a jealous God. I am a jealous God. When we worship idols, we are giving our power to something outside of ourselves. When we envy or when we're jealous, we're not only giving our power to something outside of ourselves, worrying they're going to take what we have or they have what we want and we'll never get it. We're not just giving them our power. We are hemorrhaging our vital life force energy. Hemorrhaging it. That's what envy and jealousy do to us because we're not honoring our life. We're not honoring our own gifts. We're thinking, if we're in envy or jealousy, we're thinking, well, this isn't good enough. I want that. I want that. Or if somebody can take it away, then it's not our gift. If somebody can take it away, it's not our gift to begin with. So what Jehovah was saying was, don't look at sources outside of yourself for power. Only look at the wonder that is God. Only look at the wonder that is God. Here we are. Look at the wonder that is God. Okay, not the events, not the conditions, not what's going on in the world, not the chains that we think bind us. Look only at the wonder that is God. Don't get stuck in conditions. Only look at the wonder that is God. Jehovah metaphysically represents the absolute universal law. A universal law. You cannot get around this law. You either are focusing on God, walking in faith, and calling forth more good, or you are focusing on lack and limitation, and you're not calling forth the good that you were designed to call forth. It's a law. You're only doing one or the other. You're in sync with the law, focused on God, calling forth your good, or you're not in sync with the law, and you're focused on limitation and calling forth just struggle. Right? It's a universal law. There is no getting around universal laws. And this was the hardest lesson I think I ever had to deal with in my life. I thought I was the exception. Well, I can cheat on this a little bit. I can cheat on universal laws. Who's really watching, right? I know God only watches me when I'm bad. Okay? Doesn't see the other good stuff, so I'll just sneak it in there between the good stuff. Okay? If you're going to go for a walk, would you decide not to obey the law of gravity? You don't really have a choice in obeying the law of gravity, right? Would you go out there and think, well, not today. I'm just going to float. I'm just going to float around the park. Right? No, it is not just a good idea. It is the law. It is the law. So when we're worshiping idols, we are causing suffering in our own lives by doing that because we're putting our attention on something outside of ourselves. If we wish we had someone else's life, if we think about our old life and wish we had that life from a long time ago, that was so much easier. Everything was just so much easier back then. The dollar just it spent so much better back then, right? Or we'll resent somebody else for how easy things seem to fall into place for them. Right? If we're resenting them, if we're comparing our life to somebody else's, and we're not honoring the gift of our own life, we're in the shadow. We're in the shadow. Proverbs 14:30 says, a heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones. So thank goodness for the grace of knowledge. The grace of knowledge in its purest form. It manifests through us as a revelation about the nature of the divine. It gives us insight into sacred knowledge. Now, when I think about divine insight, I think of people like Wayne Dyer or Ram Dass, the spiritual gurus who've just really shaped our world and shaped our culture here. But you know what? When we are ready to be of service and really call forth the good through us, we can get divine revelation from anywhere. I remember when the movie The Matrix came out. I was part of a Course in Miracles group that met here every Saturday morning. For weeks, we were like, well, in The Matrix, we're reading the Course in Miracles, and we're saying, this is like what Morpheus said, right? We're doing that because we're getting the revelation from anywhere. Like when you're ready, you get it from anywhere. So revealed knowledge is given to anyone in service to humanity, right? Revelation, the aha moments, those epiphanies, that's an epiphany. It's like, what? That's an epiphany. So we just have to be in service. That's all. Just be of service. Big or little, it doesn't matter. Being of service, and I always like to clear this up because I used to think being of service meant doing something ugly that I didn't want to do. Like, I don't want to do that. I want to do something special, right? I want it to be recognized. But service is really, it's not servitude. It is simply us stirring up the gifts of God within us. That's it. We stir up the gifts of God, and then we call forth that divine potential. We call forth the graces. We are then creating in our life with joy. All the creative expression that happens in our life is done with joy. It's doing our very, very best, doing our best. When we are creating, when there's an act of creation happening into our life with joy, that act of creation reverberates out into our lives. It reverberates. And so even if you are creating out of joy something that's just, you think, amazing, the reverberations of that still go out into your family, into your friends, out into your community. Because being of service, you're just being of service by calling forth all that good. That's to be of service. So we get a clear knowing about this process in our own lives of being right here, right now, and creating more good. As much good as we can possibly create right here and now. This helps us to be authentic. To call forth the good, to call forth the joy, we can only do that if we're our authentic self. Our authentic self. We're tapped into what's right here, the inner spirit. Now this is what happens. We're calling forth the good. It's reverberating out into our lives. And then each of us also become a rising tide. Each of us do. A rising tide. The grace of knowledge, it's not about spiritual stuff. It's about living in this life and experiencing our life to the fullest. It's about calling forth the divine within us into expression out into our lives. And it's also solutions. It's solutions to the big things. It's solutions to the little things. That's what that does. The shadow of envy, we're focused on something out there. We become disempowered. But we embody the graces. We experience divine revelation. And the grace of knowledge is we receive it and we act on it. We also act on it. It's likely going to flip your life around sometimes. Not every time you receive it, but sometimes it'll flip your life around. Look what happened to Moses. Like, he was a comfortable shepherd. Like, I really think his father-in-law had money. I think he was a wealthy man. All those daughters, all the herds of whatever. So I think Moses lived a comfortable, quiet, peaceful life. But man, look how his life turned around, because he called forth that within him. He stepped into his divine truth. He became Moses 2.0. Moses did a big, big, big thing, right? He led thousands of people out of Egypt who decided they weren't terribly happy about that big change, but he still led them forward. He still managed to, he was still a shepherd. He was still a shepherd. Yeah. I was just thinking about the kind of animals, like, and then the people, it's like, what was easier, right? It was easier to probably shepherd the little sheeps and the goats and stuff, or the donkeys. But he did lead them in a spiritual evolution. He did. There's no pressure on anybody in this room to do anything of that magnitude. Not at all. We just call forth the good and do what we do in our everyday life. There's a bigger force at work here. There's a bigger force at work right here. And to work with this force, to be the rising tide, we just open up to it and focus on the wonders that are God. That's all. Just focus on the wonders that are God every day. Moses wasn't perfect, but he was willing to be guided. So the grace of knowledge, then we act on divine knowledge. It's not just for ourselves. It's for other people too. We're doing this for everybody. When we can understand this revealing nature of the divine, and then we can reveal to others that it's in our nature, it's our divine design to expand the good into our lives. And that if we can do it, anybody can do it. That's the best way to actually show people that this is possible, by just doing it ourselves. Doing it ourselves, living good, expanding the good in our own lives, setting the example. And so I'm going to put a little call to action here. All right? I know that you're not here just to gather data. I know that. You're not here just to gather data. right? You're not here to just get inspired and then go home and do the same old thing again. I know you're here to be a rising tide. Like, I know you are here to be the hands and the heart of God in this world. You are here because you're committed to calling forth your soul and its divine gifts into your life right here and now. So I'm going to ask you this week, I'm going to ask you to just do this little homework. This is what I was doing for myself as I was preparing for today. But look in your own life where you may not be honoring the gifts of your life. If you're not feeling that you are enough, if you're feeling that you don't have enough, or that you've gone through so much that somebody else should just do all the hard work for you. If you're holding on to bitterness or resentment so you don't have the strength to keep going forward. If you know the right thing to do, but you're choosing to do the easier thing, even if it may not be great for yourself or for other people. Right? Look at that. See if that is happening anywhere in your life. And then you know what that means? All it means is call forth the light. Call forth the light. Right? We all have our places of pain where we didn't know how to cope with what happened, and we go into our shadow. We just call forth the light again. We call forth the light. In unity, we call forth the light through our principles. Right? We remember, okay, God is all things, and that means me. And through right thinking and right action, right? This is trusting divine guidance and then acting on it. Then we act on it. There's power in affirmative prayer. We stay connected to God. And then we don't just talk about this stuff. We live it. We put it into action in our lives. See, the unity path it's not just an inspirational path. It is a transformational path. Right? I struggled so much because I wanted the easy way. I just wanted all the magic powers without having to do any of the work. Like for years and years. I started here at Unity in 2000, and it's the thing that helped me start understanding and taking in the understanding and doing something with it, right? So I know you probably know somebody who could hear this too. You probably know somebody who could hear this. And so go home and share this newsletter. You're getting the newsletter. You sign up for it at our website. You're getting the newsletter. Share it with somebody. Go to YouTube. Watch some of our old videos. Put a comment on there, right? So I know I'm not the only one going in there. Right? Leave a comment. Subscribe to our YouTube page. Right? As soon as we get 100 subscribers, I can get us our personalized URL, and I would love to do that. Join our Facebook group. We have a Unity group called the Unity Lightworkers. See, this is a game of life that we're doing, and I want to play this game every day with y'all. And there's so many other places that we can still be connecting other than here on Sundays. We do have a lot coming up. But see, I personally am at the time in my life where I am only interested in being a rising tide. I am not interested in being a bystander. I don't want to sit back and just watch life happen. I want to be participating with life, and I want to play with other people who also want to participate with life, who also want to be the rising tide. Right? Bystanders don't create heaven on earth. Participants create heaven on earth. We are here to demonstrate the good and live this truth. That is how we create heaven on earth. So until next time, remember, you are the activity of spirit in a body. You are the hands and the heart of God in this world. You are divinely designed to do all of this stuff. Right? You're divinely designed to thrive and create growth and goodness in your own life. And everything you do, you are blessed, and so it is.
Amen.
Thank you. All right, we have a song.